American journalists.
You told me that already.
Okay, we work for Reuters.
Reuters doesn't sound American.
Okay, it's a news agency.
I know what Reuters is.
Sir, okay, I'm just saying.
Just saying, just what?
Well, you're American, okay?
Okay. What kind of American are you? Central American? South American? What?
Florida.
Florida. Central.
Welcome to Two Ways Happy Hour. I am your host, Meghan McCain. That is a clip from the A24 movie Civil War, the #1 movie last year that I was actually asked to review. And the premise of that movie is a civil war enacting in the United States and the states of California and Texas seceding because the president enacted himself to a third term. Here with me right now, I'm so excited, my friend Ryan Girdusky, who is a political consultant and writer. You can find him on Instagram and X at Ryan Girdusky. Ryan, I showed that clip. First of all, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. What an honor.
We're good friends in real life, and I see you on Mark's show sometimes, and I'm like, he's my friend. Come on my show, finally. Come on my show. But you are my friend that I go to for everything, like political advice, personal advice, but I really respect your political opinion and your point of view in the world. You've worked in politics for a very long time. You advised a bunch of candidates, worked on a bunch of campaigns. So I chose that clip because I was asked to review that movie last year. I think the A24 sent it around to like different people in politics to see their take. And it's obviously like fictional take on what could happen if a president appointed himself to a third term. But I got very anxious this weekend because in an interview with Kristen Welker, President Trump this weekend said he did not rule out the possibility of seeking a third term and clarified that he was, quote, not joking. He said, a lot of people want me to do it. I like working. A few weeks ago, Steve Bannon told Chris Cuomo that he and others are working on ways for the president to seek a third term despite the constitutional limitations. First and foremost, I take everything Trump says seriously. That's how I've survived the past 10 years. I don't think he's a joke. I don't think that he's not serious. I take everything he says very seriously. One of the things I heard flying around was the potential possibility of Trump, Vice President Vance running for president and enacting President Trump as his vice president and then stepping down and Trump becoming president again. It's all fantasy and fallacy, but I don't like this. It made me uncomfortable. I don't even like joking around about it. What's your take on it? Do you want to calm me down? What do you think?
So first of all, because it's happy hour, I am drinking some scotch. And
Yes.
I think that partially Trump likes to get the media riled up, right? He does enjoy it. But on a physical term, let's say he could run for a third term, he would be 83 years old. And I think that there's part of Trump that doesn't. One time Steve Bannon said this, there is no post-Trump in Trump's mind. There's no successor because it's just Trump. He doesn't really think of it as like there's a person behind him waiting to take over the mantle because no one could take his mantle. And I think that partially he's probably looking at okay, there are 1,400 and something days left. And this is coming to an end, and let's sit there and get the excitement there. And I'm sure if there were a possibility, he would love to think of the idea for running for president, but there's really not. I mean, there's just really not. But he has said he is. I don't see any which way that he would do it. I don't think that there's members of his family who would want him to do it. And I think that he just. I think that there's part of the humanity of oh, I'm getting older and it makes me feel uncomfortable, or this is time of my life, this decade plus of my life is coming to an end. And what does that look like? And I think that there's a lot of things going on. So some of it's real, but a lot of it's probably not real.
So you don't think that I should get all
no
upset? Okay. Well,
No,
I
I
don't like it. If we reviewed that movie last year and I was like, okay.
Did you
so
like
I
the
was
movie?
I loved it. It's very well done. And it's very accurate. And I really give it to the filmmakers. They don't blame Republicans or Democrats. It's very vague who's to blame and who. Clearly they were we need red state people to see this goddamn movie. So we're not going to make it a Republican movie.
I went to go see it with John McEntee in the theaters, who worked for the president. And he said to me at the end of the movie when they're invading the White House, spoiler alert, but they invited the White House. He's like, wow, the layout of this is exactly how the White House is. Good for them. He's like, they got the layout perfectly. So yeah, it was good though. I liked it.
I really jumped the gun, just introducing you and using that clip. So I apologize. I need to remind everyone. I just got excited. My friend's here, and I've got a few maintenance things to go through. But I just am so happy to see Ryan. First and foremost, to our friends on Zoom, please raise your hand to ask a question. I'm gonna keep it real with all of you. I have my best friend from Arizona coming on later. She's my oldest friend. Her name's Sarah Scarborough. I've known her since we were 5 years old, and she is my go-to person when I need to know what non-Beltway jerks are thinking in the world. And I love her, and she has agreed to come on even though she's nervous. So let's give her a break when she comes on. It'll be painless there, I promise. I also want to say, if you notice something different, my wonderful producer Ashley put together this gorgeous new studio. We are no longer filming in my husband's office. Thank God for our marriage and for his office. I love that there's like cactus and flags and everything. So thank you so much, Ashley. And then my third final thing is, I went and saw the Ringling Brothers Circus this weekend with my children, which was amazing. This is not an ad. No one's paying me to say this. It was so much fun, and the girls loved it. And at the end, another spoiler, at the end of the circus, the final act is a rocket girl that gets shot out of a cannon out of a rocket. And I found out, her name's Skylar, because I was very into this. And I found out that she is a second generation rocket cannon person, acrobat. I don't know how to describe that, because both her parents were people that can be shot out of a cannon. And I thought two things. Number one, apparently there's a lot of secrets about being shot out of a cannon that they can't share. It's like a very specific secret guarded thing. And I love this. This has a point, I promise. And second of all, sometimes you're a Nepo baby and you're good at something because you're around it since you were a child. And she was shot out of a cannon when she was 11 years old. And I was like, I hope she doesn't get Nepo baby stuff, because that's a great skill. Anyway, it was so much fun. I don't know if you've ever been to the circus, Ryan, but
I have. I like the circus. Yeah, it's a good time. I mean, I've said this to you many times. You mentioned being a Nepo baby. At 40 years old, doing this for so many decades, you like Liza Minnelli's not a Nepo baby anymore. Like you just, you age out of it. Like there's some people getting your foot in the door and then staying in the door are two very separate things. I
actually genuinely appreciate that, Ryan. But I still had to make that little point.
Yes.
Ryan, I want to ask you, I have found the Signal Gate story like a little overblown, in the sense that like there was nothing in that signal that I thought was like, it's going to allow terrorists to nuke our country. Do I love that our national security team was texting on any kind of chain? No, I do not. But I have been actually curious just about, because I'm messy and I love drama, just about like the behind the scenes drama of this entire thing. And over the weekend, the Wall Street Journal reported that National Security Advisor Mike Waltz is on thin ice in the aftermath of the Signal Gate, and he has lost sway with the president and his senior aides. Trump, quote, is reportedly furious with Waltz and in private has unloaded expletives and blame Waltz for the administration's first big national security crisis. Waltz has been doing a real piss poor job defending himself on TV. I don't know if he's just like not media trained. I don't know what's going on. And the question of whether or not Mike Waltz was actually friends with Jeffrey Goldberg is something people still have a lot of questions about. I want to show this clip of Jeffrey Goldberg basically saying Mike Waltz is a big fat liar. If we have the clip.
Staffer wasn't responsible, and look, I take full responsibility. I built the group. My job is to make sure everything's coordinated. I'm sure everybody out there has had a contact where it was said one person and then a different phone number.
But you've never talked to him before, so how's the number on your phone? I mean, I'm not an expert in any of this, but it's just curious. How's the number on your phone?
Well, if you have somebody else's contact and then then somehow it gets sucked in, it gets sucked in.
Jeffrey, what do you make of those explanations?
Ridiculous.
This isn't the Matrix. Phone numbers don't just get sucked into other phones. I don't know what he's talking about there. Very frequently in journalism, the most obvious explanation is the explanation. My phone number was in his phone because my phone number is in his phone. He's telling everyone that he's never met me or spoken to me. That's simply not true. I understand why he's doing it. But this has become a somewhat farcical situation. There's no subterfuge here. My number was in his phone. He mistakenly added me to the group chat. There we go.
Okay, Ryan, really quick. I've got some weird people in my phone. I think I probably have like the best, weird, amazing people in my phone. I actually have Pauly Shore's phone number at my phone. That's a very long, cold story. He's a very nice man, by the way, and still an icon. But I want to say, or a phone number that I haven't texted him in a long time, but it's his old phone number if it's not the current one. Phone numbers, but that phone number got there because he gave it to me. Like phone
Right.
numbers don't just appear. Is Mike Waltz lying? And the subtext of this is that Mike Waltz was maybe leaking to Jeffrey Goldberg if he had his number in his phone.
Well,
What do
that's
you
the
think?
accusation from a lot of right-wing people. What I would say, I met Mike Waltz one time when we had a meeting about his potential run for governor of Florida. And he was just picking my brain about certain things. And very nice man, trying to do the honorable thing by taking the blame and trying to be like, I'm a stand-up guy, look at this. And he is from my interaction with him that one time, seems like a very honorable guy. I will say this is when you blame a staffer, say you fired somebody, and you move it along. Say, I gave my phone, say, please add so-and-so, they got the wrong person, that person is no longer working for me. And you carry on, and someone bites the bullet, takes the fall for the principal, which is your job as a staffer. Your job is sometimes to fall on the sword for your boss. It's not wonderful, but it does happen. You just take the blame and you do it for the team overall. And he should have done that. He should have done that from the beginning. Just sat there and said, I gave it to a staffer. They had the wrong phone number. My mistake. I have a lot of reporters' numbers in, and I converted phones, and I brought all the numbers with me. Just let it go, and it would not have carried on. But this is like the lie is worse than the actual crime. The cover-up is worse than the crime.
Yeah.
That's very much this going on right now. If it wouldn't have been so elaborate, they could have just kept it moving. But he just made it such a big story.
Ryan, people need to scalp for this because the controversy is dying down a little bit, but it's still like kind of a big one.
Yeah.
Do you think Mike Waltz is going to get fired? Do you think a staffer is going to get fired? The fact that Trump was, quote, unloading expletives, that's not great. Like,
No, I wouldn't say that's good when your boss is doing that.
Yeah.
I think that he's probably not going to be fired just because that would give the media a scalp, and they don't like doing that. But he's probably definitely on very, very thin ice. So he's probably got one big strike against him, and he better carry off a very flawless operation from here on out. Otherwise, if he becomes the main conversation when you work in politics, by principle, I mean the main person. So the main person is Trump, and Waltz is his employee, right? Essentially. You are never to become a bigger story than the principal. You're never supposed to become a bigger conversation than the person in charge. So the fact that he is a bigger conversation than the president is a very, very bad sign. He also embarrassed everyone really in that group text. They were asking about everything. So you better carry out a pretty flawless operation from here on out. You better sit there and say you spoiled a terrorist operation, something like that. And you can recover, but it's got to be pretty flawless, and you have to just stop talking about it and making up excuses. You should have just blamed somebody from the get-go, say so-and-so had my phone, did it, made a mistake, they're released now, they're no longer working for me, and carry on. It would have been utterly fine.
Just to put a pin on this, do you think the scandals we've moved on from it? Do you think people care?
I think people moved on from it. I mean, people cared for sure, but I think they moved on from it.
All right, then we can move on from this as well. I do want to ask you about this, Ryan, because, I think the White House Correspondents' Dinner once upon a time, like 15 years ago, 20 years ago, was actually really fun, exclusive, interesting.
When you were rubbing arms with George Clooney or whoever.
I never did that, but
he was there, wasn't he?
I think so. Like I'm the biggest. I'm trying to think. There's one time when like Perez Hilton and Heidi and Spencer and I were hanging out together, and there's a picture floating out on the internet, and that was like the best thing ever when I was 23 years old. But there was a time when it was like fun and collegial, and it was like both sides were coming together, and the comedians were were hitting at the target no matter who was in power, left or right. I've been really like, I know this sounds intense, but I've been really grossed out by some of the things that the comedian Amber Ruffin was saying. She was the comedian that was chosen to perform at the event. It was actually announced yesterday that she will no longer perform at the annual White House Correspondents' Dinner. And this follows some comments that she made on the Daily Beast podcast. I want to play this right now for everyone so you can make your own decision. Number 4.
Kind of a bunch of murderers. I mean, so like they were like, you need to be, equal and make sure that you give it to both sides and blah blah blah. I was like, there's no way I'm gonna be freaking doing that, dude. Under no circumstance. And they want that false equivalency that the media does. They want that. It feels great. It makes them feel like human beings. But they shouldn't get to feel that way because they're not.
Some people are more culpable than others.
That's right.
And they get more jokes made about them, and the jokes are meaner because they're doing things that are worse.
Yeah, and a reminder that Samantha Bee's show got canceled for a reason because the ratings were garbage and she was such a horrible person, as was her head writer, who you can Google the things she did to me back in the day during COVID, but that's not the point of this. I think what Amber Ruffin said is just ridiculous. I've worked with comedians. I can laugh at myself. This is not about me like being like, oh, I'm so precious. You can't make fun of Trump. It's more that like, why invite someone into your house who's going to be so disgusting to all Republicans? Are we at the point where we should just like burn the White House Correspondents' Center to the ground? Like, what's the point of this thing anymore?
The thing is, there could be a lot of really good comics that would be very funny at the White House Correspondents' Center. It's not like there are no Democrats worth making fun of. I mean, Nancy Pelosi's teeth no longer fit in her mouth, and we can't talk. Like, there are things to sit there and joke about Republicans too, and Democrats. I mean, there just are so many things to work with. And everyone's having this conversation. And the thing is, if you could laugh at yourself, it becomes okay to laugh at somebody else. Like once it becomes self-deprecating, and that was like the genius of like a Joan Rivers comic or a Don Rickles comic, is like, we're all in this together. I'm making fun of me, like I'm making fun of you, and we're all laughing, because when you can laugh at somebody in not a mean way, but in a regular way, you can understand them better. And no, people don't think I'm scary anymore once they have the common bond of humor. And back, I mean, 15 years ago, but it was a very common thing 40, 50 years ago for like Barry Goldwater or Ronald Reagan to be at like the Dean Martin roast. Like it was a very normal, common thing to sit there and include everybody and everyone having a good time. There are a million funny comics who do the show on the roads in places like Iowa and Missouri and Arizona, who speak to Republican audiences all the time, who don't sit there and work to offend them because they need them to come to their shows. You don't have to go for somebody who just had a Netflix special once. I could literally give you 10 comics, probably off the top of my head, who would be funny and who would be good with everybody and make fun of everybody and make everyone feel welcomed. It just, you don't have to sit there and be like, they're all murderers. Give me a freaking break. I mean, like, seriously, give me a freaking break. If you're talking to Samantha Bee as like a authority on humor who was never really that funny, probably you're the wrong person, and you probably should be speaking at Kamala rallies.
Also, like your side is losing. And by your
Right.
side, I mean like the woke, not funny, like all the stuff that we all had to suffer through for so long. Like you are not in power anymore.
Right.
He is. Trump is. And that doesn't mean you can't make fun of him, but you don't get to call me and people like me murderers because you don't like Republicans. And the question, I know we have a question coming from the audience 1 minute. We'll get there. I promise 1 second. But I want to say this. So Eugene Daniels, who used to work at Politico, who is now, I think, becoming a host at MSNBC, who is ostensibly a propagandist for Biden and Vice President Harris when they were in power. He is the president, I believe, of the White House Correspondents' Dinner Association. He had said publicly that like he was so excited to have Amber Ruffin come and do this. Like she was his choice, whatever. Why are few people like Eugene Daniels getting to destroy a dinner that, by the way, those of us who do this for a living and cover this every single day, it would be nice if we could have a dinner to celebrate the fact that we somehow have all lost our minds and chosen this as a profession for as long as we have. But I don't understand why everything just has to be destroyed because a bunch of woke jerks in the media can't control themselves and understand what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
And also, they could be making fun of people in the media as well. I mean, because there are people in the media who take themselves way too seriously. It'd be so great if like a host sat there and went to the CNN crowds and say, I'm so happy. You probably love having an audience for the first time. Like they could be sitting there and
You
really
do
yeah,
host.
They could really be doing a lot, and it would make everyone, and at a time when people really want some kind of detoxification in politics, humor is the best way to do it. And everyone would enjoy it and everyone would like it if they just all relax. But I mean, it's like the last circle. It's like the movie Civil War, where the last place left is just like DC and the rest of the country is kind of changed and they're kind of like holding out. And it's these pockets, and it's very unfortunate because this is an institution that should survive. People who care about so much of institutions, surviving these institutions from Trump, you should protect your own institutions and actually have a good comic there.
I totally agree. It makes me sad that this has turned into what it has turned into. Is there any saving this dinner? I am not invited because I don't work in corporate media, but I am not going. I did get invited to some parties already, which I don't think I'm going to go to any. There's one for Substack. Sorry to out them if I wasn't supposed to out that they have a party, but I might go that one just because I work with Substack. But sorry, you guys, they're having a party. Whatever, you're coming with me, Ryan. But what do you think happens? Like, what happens to this dinner? Is it just I don't
Well,
know.
if they have a good comic, I think that like if they had a really good comic, I think that they could survive this. I really do think that they could have a great comic. They could pick road comics and who are funny to everybody. And as long as they know the assignment and they're okay with the assignment, and there are comics who do corporate bookings where you got to make
Yeah.
jokes about the Jiffy Lube people, like, things that they don't necessarily love to do or it's not their normal bit. But how great is it for you to be in those circles to build, get more material if you do the assignment correctly, where everyone likes you to go have a special where you make fun of being at the thing? You know what I mean? Like there is something to do there if you could do it right. It's a big opportunity, and this girl clearly doesn't care. I mean, there's something called, what was it called? Clapter, where the
Yes.
audience will care more about clapping than laughing.
Yeah.
Clapter is not really great.
Jim Gaffigan hosted the Al Smith dinner, and I thought he was like pitch perfect. And that was
Yeah.
when I don't think Vice President Harris went, but Trump was in the room, and he was very funny towards everybody. I think someone like him would have been a better choice.
Yeah.
Can we have a question? I'm so sorry. We have an audience question. I'm still getting used to taking audience questions quickly. Hi, I'm so apologize. I cannot see your name. Roger. Roger, it's so
Yes,
nice to see you. Do you have a question for
I
Ryan
do.
or me?
I do. First, I want to preface this by saying my political heroes have been Bobby Kennedy, John McCain, and Joe
Oh.
Lieberman.
That's so nice. Thank you.
Well deserved. My question is, I don't agree with many of the things Trump does, but the one thing I do agree with is him kicking out pro-Hamas people who
Yeah.
who have green cards and who are on student visas. I'm also in favor of cutting off funding for colleges that refuse to combat their anti-Semitism on college campuses. My question is, in England, the Labour Party went out of its way to cleanse itself of the anti-Semitism in their party. When will the Democratic Party do the same?
Roger, thank you so much for your question. I completely agree with everything you just said. My alma mater is Columbia University. It's pretty embarrassing that I went there at this point because I think people think it was like that then, and it was not the way it is now. Ryan, what do you think is going to have to happen for the Democrats to understand that anti-Semitism is a cancer that's going to ruin their party?
I think the problem is that you have a marriage between, and this is not a politically correct answer, but this is the honest answer. You have a marriage between woke white people who were taught that like Jews are part of broader colonialism and so therefore evil, and you have minorities who are taught conspiracy theories about Jews, that they are taking they're overcharging, the things that we've heard since Al Sharpton in the 80s, like that kind of nonsensical BS lines from Black and Hispanic leaders especially. So you have a perfect coalition from like AOC to Ilhan Omar to all those things. And I think the biggest problem, if you really care about this, is what I said this when I was on CNN. The biggest problem is because of legal immigration, mass legal immigration. Within about 15 years, there will be more Muslims in this country than there will be Jews, and they'll be living in key critical swing states. And it will be a conversation where if you want to win places like Michigan and Georgia has 200,000 Muslims living in it now. If you want to split those places, a conversation on foreign policy means to cater to those voters and away from our interests, which are to have a close ally in Israel. That is a concern. That is a conversation that we really need to have when it comes to immigration. It's uncomfortable. I get it, but it is real, because I don't want to live in an America where our allegiance is to terrorist organizations.
Mhm.
Our allegiance, not allegiance, but our ally is Israel in the Middle East. Not the only one, but the key one. And that is important to maintain that.
Yeah, I agree with that, Ryan. Roger, would you like to follow up?
No, thank you for taking
Thank you
my
so
call.
much. Thank you for the time, Roger. I
Thank
think we
you.
have one more question coming in, correct, from the audience. Democrats really have a huge problem. He's not wrong. Hi, Nick. How are you? Thank you so much for coming on.
Hi, Megan. How you doing? Ryan, how you doing? Nice.
Hey,
Thank you for taking my question. Love the show.
thank
Ryan, I
you.
agree with you 100% that there's so many comics out there that they can get for the White House Correspondents' Dinner. I mean, there's
100%.
just so many. It's unfortunate because, even over the last 4 years, SNL basically dropped the ball. There was so much comedy gold with the Biden administration. I mean, they just blew it. But anyway, my question is, I personally think that Mike Waltz is not going to get fired. I do think time's going to pass, but I think he will step down. I don't think Trump's going to want to fire anybody. I just think Waltz is going to step down to make everything nice here. I want to know, one of the people I think would be a great replacement for him, and I'd love to get your opinion on it, Megan, is Rick Grinnell. I think he's
sure.
outstanding. Just would love to know your thoughts on that.
Sure. Do you want to take it, Ryan, and then I'll...
Okay, so here's the honest truth once again. I am not a fan of Rick Grinnell. I have had many problems with him in the past, personally and professionally. I think that he's a bit of a social climber. And I think that the problem is that he really was gunning for Secretary of State, which he was never going to get. And I would not, you're saying he would be good because you've heard his name and he says the right things. And that's perfectly legitimate. That is the way that the average voter picks people and supports people. Amy Coney Barrett was picked for the Supreme Court partially because a lot of evangelical voters had heard her name because of her confirmation hearing where she was attacked by, I think it was Dianne Feinstein or Barbara Boxer, one of the two. That is a legitimate thing. There are a million more qualified people. If it depends on the question of what do you want American foreign policy to look like? If you want a foreign policy that reflects like the values of a Tulsi Gabbard or a J.D. Vance or somebody who's looked at the last 20 years and said what we've done hasn't always worked, nation building hasn't always worked. Rick Grinnell was a giant supporter of the Iraq War. Maybe he's changed his ways. I don't know. But when Trump first ran, he was very against him, but now he's very for him. But you want to sit there and say, what is the foreign policy goals? What does that look like? What is that vision over the next 4, 8, 12 years? I would hesitate to sit there and say we should have this replacement because I've heard this person and I like this person's social media or whatever they do. I would really sit there and say, what is your vision, right? If you were in charge, let's say you have anything, a company, a neighborhood school board, anything. What is your vision where you're going to take that place in 5, 10, 15 years? This is a very important thing for D&I. And I would hesitate to say this would be a great replacement. That would be a great replacement. I would like to hear what the president's vision is and who can complement that in the correct way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Megan.
No, follow up, Nick, and then I'll.
Yeah, no, I mean, I like Rick Grinnell. I've just listened to him. I've seen him on interviews. I think he's great. He's a Trump loyalist, which I think is good. I think Trump needs that. I think Tulsi is outstanding. I know, Megan, you're very, very close with her.
Yeah.
I think she is incredibly talented. But Ron, I would love to know, like, who do you think would be a good replacement for that position?
For whatever it's worth, I like Morgan Ortagus because I actually thought about this recently, and she is someone I'd actually she's the liaison for Saudi Arabia. Is that correct? I don't know her exact job. I know she's something in foreign policy, but I really like her. I think she's really smart. I think someone like that, who's a Trump loyalist, but also has like a little more background actually working in foreign policy. I will say, I feel extremely comfortable and secure and safe with Tulsi in the job that she's in. She has like literally made me feel so much safer just taking that role. But on a personal level, I miss her very much. I haven't seen her as much. So that's been hard. So I maybe not one of my close friends for that job. Is there anyone else you would think, Ryan?
I don't have a person in my mind. I would like somebody who's not going to use our intelligence agencies to do toppling over governments throughout the entire world and creating problems and vacuums, political vacuums and power vacuums all over the Middle East. That would be my main position. Who's ever going to have that position is who I really want and who's ever competent in the job. And obviously someone who would serve the president and not the interests of somebody else.
Yeah. Nick, anything else you want to say?
No, that was it. I appreciate it. Thanks for taking my question. Love the show, Megan. Doing a great job.
Thank you. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for asking a question. And I really, really appreciate it. But I agree with you. I don't think Mike Waltz is long for this world, no matter what. Do we have Sarah? Nah. Okay, Sarah, if we're still feeling a little shy, we can wait if you want. Okay, you raise your hand when you're ready. And if you're not ready this whole show, that's fine, Sarah. Do you know what's so funny, Ryan, is like there's so many people in my life who like, they just don't do anything in media at all. And it's great for me because I shouldn't just have friends in media, but then I forget sometimes this can be intimidating. Ryan, everybody does this all the time. So we're going to move on to our next topic, if you don't mind. So I hate this story. And I wanted to actually ask you about it. So you know that iconic photo of Trump after he was shot with his fist in the air saying fight. So it was taken by an AP photographer named Evan Vucci, who right now, he testified in a hearing that the restrictions placed on the AP have left the publication struggling to keep up with its competitors. The White House has limited the AP's access to the Oval Office and Air Force One when the publication decided not to follow Trump's executive order of renaming the Gulf of Mexico. The AP is also suing Trump's team for punishing a news organization for using speech against him. I think Vucci, I mean, everybody knows him. Everybody knows his work. He's like a old school, photojournalist. I think that's a really important job. I think he's obviously shown how incredible he is. He's a multiple Pulitzer Prize winner. And he's really I don't have time to go in it now, but he's captured like many, many iconic photos that have been seen in the past 20 years.
Yeah.
Why is he banned? Can we get him back? I hate this. I hate that he's banned from the White House because, again, I think Trump has got to feel safe and good with him photographing him, given, that he photographed him in a crazy photo after he was shot.
I know. And I think two things. One, I mean, I don't understand why they won't call it Gulf of America, but I think
I agree with that too.
During the Obama administration, when I think Obama was banning Fox News from the Oval Office for a while. It was the New York Post. It was something like that. And all the other publications out there and were like, all right, we're going to stand with Fox. And now they don't do that anymore. And I don't think that I think the media environment is just different where they're so craven. And if the rest of the media cared, they'd all sit there and be like, hey, none of us are going to show up at the White House press conference till you let the AP back in. Or they would say, hey, we're going to call it Gulf of America now. And now it's like a stupid standoff where there's no winning for the AP. Just call it Gulf of America and move on. Like, just absolutely move the hell on.
I don't understand why they're not doing it either, especially because people in my own life are calling it Gulf of America. Like, I think somewhat funny, ironic. Like, I don't care. This is so not the issue. I care. Call it the Gulf of America. Call it like this is so not the pressing issue of my life. I just want to say one thing to all the people watching, because we have billions of people watching this YouTube show right now, Ryan. That I don't understand a world where you're talking about fairness in media and bringing fairness back to the White House when Caitlin Collins gets a front row seat working for garbage CNN. Sorry, that's what it is. And the White House press room, and Evan doesn't get to be in the White House taking photos every day. I don't think that's right.
Yeah.
I think Sarah is ready for a question. Sarah, are you ready to meet Ryan? Hi, Sarah.
Oh my God.
You did it. You did it.
I've heard so much about you, Sarah. I'm so excited to meet you.
Oh, I'm so excited to meet you too.
I'm so excited. So first and foremost, Ryan is my newish friend, even though I've known you many years now. And Sarah is literally my oldest, closest girlfriend. I love you so much. She has 4 kids. She lives in Arizona. We hang out all the time. We go in Arizona, but she's also, other than being a very, important personal friend, you and your husband, Bobby, just for my professional life, I am always picking your brain, asking you about issues, asking you about like what people in Arizona are actually thinking. And of all the stuff we've been talking about just now, is there anything you wanted to bring your 2 cents in? Do you even know what the White House Correspondents' Dinner is, and do you care?
I didn't know much about it, but I did see the clip of her. So
okay. Yes.
Arizona, everyone around me in like the Northern Peoria area love this new change. Everyone is really happy with the Trump. I mean, not 100% on board with everything that he's doing, but the changes I think everybody needed to see, and we wanted it. And I think everyone is really happy with it.
So,
Sarah, can I ask you a question? So, like, Meghan raves about you all the time.
I do. I love her.
So much. She's
like my sister.
I knew about you before I even saw a picture of you.
So, I can't wait to meet you in person.
So, my question to you is, of the things, and I'm speaking as Trump supporters, what is the thing that Trump supporters are mostly like, I don't understand why he's doing this, of all the things that he's doing? Because my whole family is Trump supporters. I think I have one Democrat and like 100+ people. And I hear what they say, and I want to hear what you would say. It's like the one they're like, I don't understand. Not that they dislike him, but they're like, why is he doing this for?
Can you ask me the question again?
Is there anything that Trump is doing you don't like?
Things that he's doing, and among Trump supporters in Arizona, what's the one thing that he's doing that people are like, I don't understand why he's doing this?
I think he's coming out like really strong, balls to the wall, kind of like he has to prove himself, and maybe he could take it down a tiny bit. Mm-hmm. Although I think it's a nice change from the last administration that was so slow. I hear a lot from my friends on the left that he has zero empathy, and that's bringing out a lot of ugliness with people just in the day-to-day, just day-to-day conversations that they have. And that, I don't love all the ugliness, but
Sarah, for her part, had to talk to me because she felt guilty voting for Trump, being my dear friend. I said, "You gotta do you, girl. I love you.
And
I love your
talked to her
family. You
about it.
gotta
I
do you."
did, but I couldn't continue.
Yeah. So I want
Supporting
to
them.
know, you were texting earlier to me and Ashley, my producer, that you were explaining why the left lost you so much. Because I actually think you're like such a great, I mean, you're a lifelong Republican, but I think if like an interesting independent came around, you wouldn't be averse to voting for them. Why do you think Democrats have screwed it up so badly? And is there any chance of them like recovering and getting women like you back to voting for them? Yeah. Okay. There you go.
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. They just, it came off really weak.
Yeah.
The past 4 years was really, really weak. And as a country, I would love to see us get strong again. And I'm hoping that he might help. What I didn't, I mean, God, there's so many things.
I know like
I have a daughter.
trans men in sports was a big thing you and I talked about a lot.
Yeah, and it really bothered me. I have a daughter that plays volleyball. She's 13, and she works so hard at this goal, and she dreams of playing in college, and they just do not have the scholarship opportunities that they give to boys. I mean, there's a whole host of reasons why this is terrible. It's not safe. I could go on and on and on, but that was it. I mean, I've had grown men tell me that they would have zero problem going into a women's bathroom next to my 13-year-old daughter and using the restroom, changing their clothes. And these are not, it's a really hard pill to swallow when you're trying to raise little women.
Did you have more faith that Trump was going to bring the economy back on track than Vice President Harris?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I had zero faith in Kamala Harris all around.
Yeah. I remember last summer
He
because
was.
Sarah comes when I go home, our families they come and we all spend time together in Stona. And I remember having a conversation with you last summer, and it was the first time I told Mark, that man who, is like the godfather of two-way, I was like, there's no way that Vice President Harris can win because the things my girlfriend or her husband are saying to me, like, if you're just a really good person in a focus group, it's like the economy is garbage. It's not going to get better. Culture war issues, stuff left over from COVID. Yeah.
The border Cesar. I mean, come on. It was just comical. It was awful. It was horrible to watch. And I'm glad that that's over. I just couldn't do it anymore.
One last question, and then Ryan, obviously you can get in. Arizona breaks my heart that it is a blue state, purple state, whatever. I don't really understand what we have to do to get back to having a Republican governor, Republican senator, obviously. It's very important to both of us. I think it's important to a lot of Arizonans. I don't think the people in office are great reflections of the current population. Ryan, I don't think you do either. I don't want to give away who you have and have not worked for in politics, but Ryan knows very well Arizona's politics. What do you think has to happen? And this goes to Ryan, you and Sarah, to get Republicans back in power in the state.
I am surrounded by Republicans. They are everywhere, from my kids' schools to their club sports to their rec sports. I am surrounded by Republicans, Christians. I mean, they're all, so I really am not around a ton of liberals or Democrats. I mean, I am, but the majority of them are all Republican. They're all loving what's happening. They have hope for the future, which I have not heard in years. Being a Christian mother, I'm happy. And that's the consensus around all the other moms that I'm around and dads. I mean,
yeah. I think for Arizona, I mean, listen, Carrie Lake, who I am no fan of, I won't speak for anyone else, but Carrie Lake.
She didn't vote for her.
She's awful. She's awful. I would have tripped her.
Okay, I wasn't going to speak for anybody else besides myself. But Carrie, I just had a conversation with an Arizona politician recently, and I said, Carrie Lake presented a type of conservatism that was based a lot in fear and anger and aggression, which there's a place for that. There's no place for that. But there's also a place for opportunity and optimism and hope in that. And I think that hitting the negative message on a more consistent basis than the opportunity message is something that is a problem. And listen, Arizona is a state that has benefited immensely from the federal government investing in it through their rocket program early. I'm talking decades ago. And people wanted to move there because it became a land of opportunity. And I think that there's space for that right now. I have to tell you, I've been to Arizona 3 times. a amazingly beautiful state, like
Mhm.
incredible,
Absolutely.
much nicer than the surrounding states. And it is, I've been in New Mexico,
Absolutely.
and it is a beautiful state. And I think that that message of optimism and opportunity, especially when you're sandwiched between two very blue states, and Arizona leads so much on so many indicators compared to their neighbors, that it's not a question of like, oh, it's a location thing. It's because the policies of Arizona made Arizona free, made Arizona prosperous. You keep Arizona free, you keep it California free, and you keep Arizona prosperous. And I think that's a really strong message that needs to be emphasized more from people.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I just have hopes for the future that we can have Republicans back to running the state, because I think it's, like I said, much more indicative of the population.
They're coming.
Yeah.
I'm keeping hope.
We have a little bit of time. Can we do one pop culture topic with both of you? And Sarah, I know you
Yes,
like
I
this.
look forward to it.
Okay, so I used to work at Saturday Night Live in college, a very long time ago, back in the dark ages, when I was 21. And I am very familiar with how things happen at SNL. I've never seen anything like this happen once. For people that didn't see, because I personally don't watch Saturday Night Live anymore because it's not that funny. The country singer, the country superstar, Morgan Wallen, abruptly exited Saturday Night Live stage at the end. Goodbye. We got the clip.
Thank you so much to Morgan Wallen. I had a wonderful time. Thank you
Okay, so maybe this is something like this has happened in the 50-year history of the show. I can't really remember. Maybe it has. Someone enlighten me if it has. Later in that evening, Morgan Wallen posted an image of his private jet on Instagram with the caption, "Get me to God's country." Morgan Wallen, for people that don't know, he was banned from coming on Saturday Night Live during COVID because he was breaking COVID rules. He's a controversial singer. He's also just like a mega star. I mean, he's like wins all the CMAs. He's like sells out everywhere. I personally really like his music. Don't come for me, everybody. It's very good. What do you guys think of this? Do you think he was being like a jerk? Do you think he deserves it? Quite frankly, if I had to spend a week with like, some of these like woke cast members on Saturday Night Live, I probably would have done the same thing.
Well, he was the musical guest, wasn't he? The
He was
musical
musical guest, yeah.
So I just think that he probably, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of his music, but I think that he probably this was because there's infamous cast parties afterwards, after every episode, and he probably was like, I'm not even sticking around for that. I'm just leaving as soon as I possibly can. I mean, I get it. I mean, I get him not really appreciating liking. I can't imagine that Asian comic, what's his name, who's always on
Bowen Yang.
I can't imagine him and Bowen Yang hung out very well together. You know what I mean? Like, I can't imagine they had a lot to talk about after the sign, but I think he was probably just done with it. It's probably, New York can grind on you after a while.
Sarah, do you like Morgan Wallen? What'd you think of this?
I'm not a big Morgan Wallen fan, but I did just think it was a little disrespectful just to walk off SNL stage. Like, you have that opportunity, and just to walk off like you're some big hotshot, I did not agree with. I thought you looked like a total ass. And it made me think of that one time a couple months ago when he got drunk over his ex-girlfriend, I think. I mean, don't quote me, but like going with another guy. So he threw a chair
Oh, yeah.
over a bar. And I was like, that is the most childish stuff. I mean, what is he, a toddler? I have children. Is he a toddler? So it just reminded me of toddler activities to walk off of SNL. I mean, I just don't think he's that big of, I don't know. I didn't like it.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not respectful. It's like
It's not
definitely
respectful. And I'm 40. I come from respect that. I mean, that was a great opportunity for him to shine. And I don't know. I just thought he came off bad.
Yeah, but that's why your kids are so well behaved. Sarah's children are literally the most well behaved kids I've ever been around in my entire life.
It's important.
They are like literally Ben. I mean, like, he's not watching the show anyway, so it doesn't matter. But he's like, he's not watching. But he's literally always like, our kids need to spend more time around Sarah's kids and less time around DC jerk kids. We
have discipline, and my husband is really involved, and we have that masculinity in the home, and it's no bullshit, and we do not allow what a lot of these parents are allowing kids to get by with.
Sarah's husband is a Mexican man, and I've always had interesting conversations also with him about the Hispanic culture coming towards Trump and coming towards conservatism. I believe he's a lifelong Republican, though, too. So
correct.
You guys aren't like exactly the best examples because you never left.
I know. No, he's no.
Yeah.
Republican forever.
Do you want to take one more question? Okay, we have one more question. Sarah, stay on. You can ask a question for Sarah too if you want. One more person coming on. And thank you again so much, Sarah. I really am so excited you decided to come on today. Hi, what is your name? William? Hi, William. How are you? Do you have a question for Ryan, me, or Sarah?
It's more for Ryan. So I know from your background, your work at 1776, sort of totally shifting gears. With some of the recent announcements with the education department, I'm curious what you think is actually going to happen, knowing that there are not 60 votes to eliminate this department. So what would actually happen in the next 4 years? What would happen if a Democrat was elected 4 years from now? And also what like the biggest challenges would be. I know some of the justifications were just it costs too much and we want to return power to the states, but some easy challenges that I feel like a Republican could foresee is, well, if you give more power to states like California and New York and you had issues with wokeism, like that's not going to change. And also for some standards, I know they tried that in the Bush administration to have sort of some national standards for curriculum, but there are things that are going to be the same that doesn't need to be done on a state by state basis. Like Algebra 2 is the same,
Right. Okay, I love this question. So I have a podcast on iHeartRadio called The Numbers Game. Our episode today was on closing the Department of Education. Okay. This is like the top. If you listen to it, it's got a lot of those answers. But what's going to happen is the lights will shut off, the building will exist, and most of the things that have to happen, like Title I, Title IX, special education funding will go to different departments. I think student loans are going to go to the Small Business Administration, things like that. Everything will operate without the department. My main concern of the Department of Education as it stands is their Dear Colleague letters. You know what they are?
Yeah, like I remember with Obama with the standard that you had
Obama with a school to prison pipeline that led to the mass shooting in southern Florida. Was he said if you're Hispanic, have a lenient policy towards the Hispanic or blacks because there's too many of them getting expelled and then right. Exactly. So that will stop for the time being. There are not 60 votes to close the department. So the department will going to be moved around, all the responsibility moved around. As far as what's going to happen with the states goes, most of those things are already involved in the states. Like the states have almost unanimous ability to do curriculum. They have the ability to do most of their standards. They have the ability to do statewide testing, standardized testing. It's very different state to state. So that doesn't change much because there's no Department of Education. There are certain standard issues, but we could literally change those issues based upon funding. So for example, during the Bush administration, Bush was all about phonics, right? He wanted phonics in all the classrooms. And because Democrats hated phonics, they adopted something called sight learning. Sight learning doesn't work at all. It's a terrible idea. It came from Australia. They don't even do it anymore. And it really set American kids back with reading substantially by adopting the sight learning plan. But it was only because Bush liked phonics. That is changing little by little, state by state. If you want a top-down approach, which I'm not against necessarily, you have to sit there and attach funding to certain thresholds. Phonics, Singapore math is a great thing. The classics in reading, which is what Miami-Dade has adopted in their public schools, which is expanding nationwide. There's different things to do nationwide, but if you attach it to the funding that you have to meet certain thresholds, you can kind of achieve some of those standard changes. But a lot of it is going to be left locally and statewide. So if you care a lot, you should vote in your local school board elections. We spend millions of dollars getting conservatives elected to school boards. We have elections in Wisconsin tomorrow, and then Texas is in May 9th, I think it is. But that is really where the rubber hits the road. And I think the biggest problem on the local school, I think the school boards are like snowflakes. They all look the same except under a microscope where they're all different. The problem with a lot of school districts individually is that school board members, administrators, they're taught a certain way, or administrators really are taught a certain way of how to teach. If you bring people from outside the box to really look at things, do third-party audits of how they're spending their money, you can really have dynamic curriculum reform and standard reform that will really improve local education. I've seen it happen, firsthand during the school board elections. I think that that's what's missing. I know that was a very complicated answer, but I hope that answered your question a little bit.
Yeah, I guess my follow-up to that would be, I understand that sort of the Republican reflexive response is, local control and things like that. And I guess that makes sense. I guess back to the question about standards, Like, do there really need to be 50 different standards for some of those things? As like for what I mentioned earlier, standards. Like everyone talks about in local control that, you know, they are better able to meet the needs of their students and meet the needs of their communities, but the needs of what you need to learn is basically the same everywhere in the country, and that to get a high school diploma doesn't change if you're in New York or Arizona
Right.
or in Illinois or another state. Like you need to be able to read and write and do math at your level.
Yeah, so the Department of Education has never had that role, and I don't know if they could ever take that role upon themselves. I know for myself personally, I went to a very good high school, preparatory school, private Catholic, and I didn't take, they said when I was a freshman, I don't know if my parents even knew this, but they said, do you want to take 4 years of math and science or 4 years of art? And it's like, hell yeah, art. So I never took anything past algebra 1 and earth science. I have no idea how, like, you know, anything happens. So, but that was my local, and I had to take the still a standardized test and I had to pass it. I don't think that's the main problem when it comes to what's going on in schooling. I mean, I don't even think it's statewide. I think it's really locally controlled. If you could deal with the violence issues in schools, which is a big problem, especially for teacher retention, and you could deal with how to.
I'm so sorry, Ryan. I'm
I
so sorry.
know.
And
Sorry,
we're
I'm
going
such a
late
long
on time.
answer. I'm sorry.
No, I'm so sorry to both of you. We're running late on time. I'm getting this from Ashley, and they get really mad.
I'm
Everybody at 2A
sorry.
gets really mad if we go long.
Shoot me a
come
DM on
back.
Twitter. I'll answer
Ryan, come back, and William, come back, and we'll finish this conversation. I can add nothing to this, so you
What
gotta
was the
ask
podcast
Ryan.
name you said
I'm
that you
so
did this
sorry.
morning?
Pardon me?
What was the name of the podcast you said that you did this morning?
Oh, A Numbers Game. It's my podcast every week, every Monday. Please listen to it. I
Yes.
would appreciate that.
And you can follow Ryan. Thank you so much for coming on. You can follow Ryan on X and Instagram at Ryan Girdusky. And Sarah Scarborough, I love you so much. Thank you for coming on.
so much.
I know you have a little fright of the camera, so I appreciate you getting over it to come on. Come back, both of you, literally anytime you want.
Absolutely.
I want to come back all the time. And Ryan, I can't wait to meet you.
I can't wait to meet
I
you.
think wed have a lot of fun.
I do.
Yes,
And Sarah,
absolutely.
you got to bring Bobby next time too.
He would love it. He was
and-
setting up my camera and everything.
I love it. All right, you guys, we'll say goodbye. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. We'll be
Cheers.
back
Bye.
Thank you for
again.
having me.
Same time, same place on Wednesday, guys. See you then.